You don't get rich by chance, and you don't stay poor by accident. There are patterns. There are philosophies. There are silent decisions being made in the background of your life every day. And those decisions either move you toward wealth or toward regret. Now here's the truth that hits the hardest. Most people don't fail financially because of a lack of opportunity. They fail because they never changed the mindset that was keeping them broke. They learned how to earn, but not how to manage. They learned how to spend, but not how to build. And so they chase money with effort, but never attract wealth with understanding. The moment you begin to think different, act different, and decide different, wealth stops being a someday wish and starts becoming a daily reality. So let's walk through the secrets together. Not the secrets locked in vaults, but the ones hiding in plain sight, waiting to be practiced. Because when philosophy meets discipline and intention meets habit, the money can't help but come looking for you. When I was younger, I used to think the only way to get ahead financially was to earn more. If I could just get that raise or land a better job, then maybe, just maybe, I'd finally breathe. But here's the catch. More money doesn't solve a money mindset problem. I learned that lesson the hard way. I was living from one payday to the next, and every time the calendar flipped, my wallet was back to zero. Not because I wasn't working hard. No, I was working plenty. But I was working only to survive, not to grow. You see, paycheck to paycheck living isn't just about low income. It's about a high pattern of neglect. Neglecting your own future. Neglecting the discipline that separates comfort from control. Most people pay everyone else, first the landlord, the grocery store, the gas station, and then wonder why there's never anything left for themselves. That's not budgeting. That's slavery. That's letting the world write your financial story. I remember when someone said to me, "You've got to pay yourself first." I said, "I can't. I've got bills." They said, "That's why you must." That sentence hit me like a hammer. I had never thought of putting myself before the electric company. But they were right. If you don't prioritize your own future, no one else will. So I started small, $10 a week. That's all I could spare. But I didn't wait until the end of the week to find that 10. I took it right off the top, before bills, before food, before anything. It was mine. A deposit into my own freedom account. Here's what I learned. Wealth begins not with abundance, but with intention. The moment you start keeping even the smallest portion of your income, you begin to shift from consumer to creator, from victim to architect. That small act of saving, even automated, isn't about the money. It's about the message you send to yourself. I matter. My future matters. And that message compounds faster than interest. So here's what you do. Go to your bank and set up an automatic transfer. 10% of every paycheck, no matter how small, gets swept into savings before you see it, before it tempts you, before life talks you out of it. Make it invisible. Make it inevitable. Because when saving becomes automatic, wealth becomes inevitable too. And that's how you escape the trappy, building your own ladder, one small rung at a time. There was a time in my life when the days felt full, but the progress felt empty. I was always busy, but busy with what? You'd be amazed how much of our lives we trade for nothing. Hours watching television, scrolling through nonsense, caught up in conversations that go nowhere, and meetings that produce nothing. And when the day ends, we say, there's just not enough time. No, the truth is there's just not enough intention. Let me tell you something powerful. Your time is your seed. Where you plant it determines what kind of harvest you'll see. And most people are planting their seed in barren soil, entertainment, distraction, passive noise. But wealth is a garden. It requires attention, cultivation, and deliberate action. If you waste time on low-value activities, you're telling your future self, I'm not ready for more. You're voting against your own potential. I remember when I first heard this idea. Trade entertainment time for education time. At first it sounded like a sacrifice, but I soon discovered it was an exchange. I wasn't losing anything. I was gaining everything. I started with one simple action at a time on it. For 3 days, I tracked every hour. Just like a banker tracks his dollars, I tracked my hours. And you know what I found? I was bleeding time. A little television here, little idle talk there, endless checking of the phone. It wasn't just minutes, it was momentum slipping away. So I made a trade. 1 hour, just one. I took 1 hour that I used to waste and I gave it to something better. I read a book on business. I watched a seminar on investing. I listened to an audio lesson in the car instead of flipping through stations. That 1 hour became sacred. That 1 hour made me dangerous because now I wasn't just working, I was growing. And when you grow, everything else begins to rise with you. Your mindset, your skills, your income. You begin to separate yourself from the crowd, not because you're better, but because you're more aware. Most people never stop to measure their time, but when you do, you regain your power. So here's the strategy. For the next 3 days, audit your time. Write it down. Every hour. Then find just 1 hour that you can rescue from the flames of distraction and invest it into your future. Do this daily, and one day you'll look back and realize you didn't just find time, you bought your freedom with it. I've met people making 6 figures who are broke, and I've met people making minimum wage who are on their way to wealth. The truth is, your income is not the full story, it's just the beginning of the story. What matters is not how much you earn, but how you manage what you earn. Wealth isn't a number, it's a behavior, a mindset, a consistent set of actions taken over time. And if you think you need to wait until you make more to start building wealth, you've already delayed the journey. Years ago, I met a young man who worked at a coffee shop. He told me, "Jim, I want to build wealth, but I only make just enough to cover rent and groceries." I said, "Let me ask you something. Do you spend anything on fast food, soda, or streaming services?" He looked at me a little embarrassed and said, "Yeah, I guess." That was the moment. You see, wealth begins not when you hit a certain income bracket, but when you make a different choice with the income you already have. Start where you are. If you've got $5, that's where you begin. Use a micro-investing app. Some of them let you invest your spare change automatically. You can round up every purchase, and without even noticing, you're investing daily. It's not the amount, it's the habit. Because if you can't manage $5, you won't manage $500,000. Wealth doesn't begin with a paycheck. It begins with discipline. And don't just put money to work. Put your mind to work too. Read one financial book a month. Just one. Skip the entertainment and study wealth like it's a craft. Because it is. Every wealthy person I've ever known studied it investing, saving, multiplying, protecting. They didn't just hope for it, they learned it. And here's the magic. When you act like someone preparing for wealth, your circumstances begin to catch up to your behavior. I once told a young man, if you put away just $5 a day, in a year you've saved over $1,800. But if you also invested that money in a simple index fund earning compound interest over time, it would grow into thousands more. It's not fantasy, it's mathematics. Small actions, multiplied consistently, lead to big results. So don't wait for more money, start building the muscle now. Save $1, invest $5, read a page, build habits so strong that when more income comes, you don't lose it, you multiply it. That's how the wealthy think, and that's how you build wealth from the ground up. I've spoken to so many people who say they have an idea, a skill, a passion, and yet they never act on it. You ask why, and the answer comes cloaked in different forms, but underneath it all is the same culprit. Fear. Fear of failure. Fear of looking foolish. Fear that they're not ready, not qualified, not good enough. So what do? They stay stuck. And here's the tragedy, many die with their potential still inside them simply because they never gave themselves permission to begin. Now let me tell you something I learned early on. You don't need to be great to get started, but you do need to start to become great. That's the principle. Most people wait until the plan is perfect, until every step is mapped out, until they've taken all the courses and asked all the questions. But by then, life has already moved on. The window is closed, and the regret begins to settle in. Here's a better strategy, start small. One skill, one person, one offer. If you know how to write for someone for $10. If you can design, offer a simple logo. If you can cook, offer to prep meals for a neighbor. It's not about building an empire overnight. It's about proving to yourself that you can offer value and someone is willing to exchange money for it. That simple transaction rewires your belief system. Suddenly you're no longer just an employee, you're a creator. And that shift changes everything. I remember when I started selling, I was terrified to speak, but I sold one product to one person. It wasn't smooth, it wasn't glamorous, but it was real. And I learned more from that one sale than I did reading 10 books on sales theory. That's how confidence is built. Not in theory, but in movement, in doing, progress over perfection. Perfection is the enemy of action. It convinces you that you're not ready, when in fact readiness is born through repetition. You try, you fail, you adjust, you try again. That's how every business, every success story, every empire begins. Not with certainty, but with courage. So if you've been sitting on an idea, stop waiting for permission, give it to yourself. Start with a $10 offer, and don't worry if it's messy, just start. Because the moment you begin, fear loses its power. And momentum begins to build the bridge from where you are to where you want to go. One of the most dangerous habits that silently robs people of their financial future is impulse spending. It's subtle. It sneaks in quiet line, a lunch break, scrolling your phone, or walking past a display. One minute you've got a little extra cash, and the next it's gone, traded for something you didn't really need and won't even remember owning in a few months. And worse, you don't just lose the money, you lose the opportunity that money carried with it. That's the real cost. The challenge is this. Most people make spending decisions emotionally, not strategically. They let the feeling of the moment overpower the wisdom of their future. And when you do that often enough, you build a habit, a dangerous one, that says, if I want it now, I should have it now. That's not freedom, that's financial slavery disguised as convenience. Now here's what changed the game for me. I started using what I call the value test. It's a simple question, but it's a powerful filter. Before you make any non-essential purchase, ask yourself, will this make me richer or poorer in money, in time, or in peace of mind? That's it. And don't rush it. Give the answer a moment. If it makes you richer in value, experience, opportunity, then go ahead. But if it makes you poorer, pause. Wait 48 hours. Most financial mistakes don't come from lack of income, they come from lack of discipline. A little distance from the decision often reveals the truth. That gadget that felt like a must-have today might seem completely unnecessary 2 days later. And if it still seems like a good investment after 48 hours, then you're making the choice with your head, not your impulse. You see, money isn't just something you spend. It's a vote for the kind of person you're becoming. Every dollar you part with is a trade. You're giving away something of value. So you better make sure what you're getting in return is equal or greater. Otherwise, you're just trading your future for a moment of distraction. I used to walk into stores and feel that familiar tug just this once. But I learned to pause, to apply the test. It saved me thousands over the years. And more than that, it trained my mind to respect money, to weigh choices. That's the foundation of wealth. Not just making more, but keeping more by making smarter decisions consistently. Wealth isn't built on income alone, it's built on intelligent, intentional use of that income. And when you learn to delay gratification and make choices through the lens of long-term value, your money starts to work for you, not against you. One of the deepest chains that holds people back from building wealth isn't in their wallet, it's in their mind. You can hand someone $1 million idea, and they'll still find a way to sabotage it if they haven't dealt with the poverty in their thinking. I've seen it. People with talent, people with opportunity, people with access still broke. Why? Because they never saw themselves as someone who could be wealthy. And that's the trap. If your inner identity is poor, no outer circumstance will ever be enough. I used to think wealth was just about money. Later I learned it's about mindset first. You don't get rich and then start thinking rich. You think rich first and then over time you get rich. But most people don't believe they deserve it. They've been told things like, people like us don't make it, or money changes you, or it takes money to make money. And so they stay stuck. Not because they're lazy, but because their identity keeps them anchored to scarcity. So how do you fix that? You don't wait until the money comes. You start by rewiring your identity. You start telling yourself a new story, one rooted in truth, not limitation. I recommend something simple but powerful. Write a personal wealth vision statement. Not for anyone else, just for you. Something like, I am a disciplined wealth builder. I attract, manage, and multiply money with wisdom. I create value and am rewarded in abundance. Write it in the present tense, as if it's already true, because identity doesn't wait, it leads. Now here's the catch. It only works if you repeat it. Read it out loud every morning and every night. Speak it until your subconscious accepts it as fact. Say it until the internal story changes. Because you can't out-earn your belief system. You'll only rise to the level you believe you deserve. I remember writing mine in a little notebook. It felt silly at first, but over time something shifted. I started making decisions as the person I had described. I didn't skip the investment account because I couldn't afford it. I made room for it because a wealth builder does. I stopped saying I'm broke and started saying I'm building. And with those words, slowly, my results changed. You don't need a raise to escape mental poverty. You need a new mindset, one built not on fear, but on identity. Because when you see yourself as someone who builds wealth, your behavior starts to match that picture, and your bank account eventually follows. One of the greatest lies people believe is this: I can't build wealth because I don't have money to start with. That belief right there stops more dreams than failure ever will. It's the idea that building assets requires a fortune in. So people wait. They wait until they get a raise. They wait until they pay off the car. They wait until the kids are grown. But wealth doesn't respond to waiting, it responds to action. And the good news is, you don't need big capital to start. What you need is resourcefulness. I remember when I realized that not every asset has a dollar sign attached to it at the beginning. Some assets are built from knowledge, time, or creativity. You've got a skill, that's an asset. You know how to explain something well? That's an asset. You've learned how to solve a problem others face? That's the seed of a digital product. And here's the secret. Digital assets have one powerful trait that traditional assets don't. They scale with zero inventory. You can sell one ebook or one course to 100 people without printing a thing. That's leverage. Start with what you have. If you've got a phone and a skill, you're already equipped. Record a tutorial. Write a guide. Offer to teach someone one-on-one. I once knew a young man who knew Photoshop not professionally, just from YouTube. He packaged what he learned into a simple video course, uploaded it online, and started making a few sales a month. No warehouse, no staff, just knowledge turned into an asset. He didn't wait until he had $10,000. He started with what he knew and $10 for a hosting plan. Another low-cost path? Affiliate marketing. Promote a product you believe in and earn a commission for every sale. No inventory, no shipping, no customer service, just value creation and reward. But here's what it takes: consistency, learning, and action. Don't dabble build. And remember, when you're small, your biggest advantage is flexibility. You can test ideas, pivot quickly, and grow by doing. The truth is, the internet has lowered the gate. What used to require thousands of dollars in a team can now be done with a laptop in a weekend. But the gate still has a lock-in. The key is initiative. If you wait for capital before you build, you'll be waiting a long time. But if you build with what you have, capital will eventually find you. So don't let small beginnings fool you. The asset you build today with $0 could bring in $1,000 a month tomorrow and teach you how to create 10 more. Staying motivated over the long term is one of the great challenges of success. When you first begin something new, a new financial plan, a new business, a new habit, the energy is high, the excitement is real. But then the days start looking the same, progress seems slow, and life throws its curveballs. And that initial spark begins to fade. Now, if you're relying on that spark to keep you going, you're already in trouble. because motivation, like energy, burns out unless it's refueled regularly. So how do you stay in the game long enough to see the rewards? You anchor your goal to something deeper than just the goal itself. Let me tell you, money by itself is not enough. A dollar amount won't get you through the tough days. What does? A reason, a strong enough why. When the why gets strong, the how gets easier. I remember when I was young and broke what lit a fire under me wasn't just the desire to have more money. It was the pain of being embarrassed. It was watching others live a better life and realizing I had the same 24 hours. It was the moment I decided I never wanted to live a life of regret. That became my why. And that fire didn't need motivation from the outside. I fed it from the inside every day. So what's your reason? Is it to get your family out of debt? To retire your parents? To prove to yourself that you're not meant for average? Whatever it is, make it visible. Write it down and put it on your mirror. Stick it on the dashboard of your car. Make it the background on your phone. Every time you're tempted to give up or coast, let that reason stare you in the face. That's how you manage motivation. Not by waiting for the mood to strike, but by reminding yourself of your mission daily. Another thing I do is revisit my reason every week. I schedule it like an appointment. Sunday evenings, I sit down and ask, why am I doing this? I reread my vision. I reconnect with my goals. And I remind myself where I was and where I want to go. It's like recharging a battery, because progress is often invisible in the short term. You won't see the full picture after 1 week, but you can always revisit the blueprint and stay on course. So don't depend on emotional highs to carry you through. Tie your goals to purpose. Purpose doesn't fade, it deepens. And when your vision is connected to your values, you'll keep walking even on the days when there's no applause. Most people know what they earn. They know what they make per hour, per week, per month. But ask them what they're worth and they go quiet. Now that's not a judgment. That's a reflection of a missing habit. Because when you don't know what you're really worth, it's easy to stay stuck. You can work for years, handle thousands of transactions, and still be in the dark about your actual progress. But here's a simple principle. Clarity equals power. The moment you can see clearly where you are, you gain the ability to change it. And the way to get that clarity is by tracking your net worth. It's simple. Net worth is just everything you own minus everything you owe. Your bank balances, your investments, your car, if it's paid off, even your digital products, these are assets. Then your debts, credit cards, car loans, student loans, any money you owe, these are liabilities. Subtract one from the other, and you've got your number. Now, I know for many, the number won't be exciting at first. It might even be negative. That's okay. The point isn't to impress yourself, it's to face the truth. Because once you've got the number, you can begin to move it. I started this habit when I was broke. Once a month, I would sit down and list everything I had and everything I owed. In the beginning, it was more owe than own, but that didn't matter. The habit taught me discipline. It showed me patterns. It revealed where my money was going and what wasn't helping me grow. And over time, I watched the number change. Slowly at first. But then something interesting happened. I started getting excited about the progress. Even a $50 shift felt like victory. That energy kept me going. And as the habit grew, so did my awareness. I began asking better questions. If I spend this today, will it raise or lower my net worth? That one question changed the way I looked at money entirely. You don't need a fancy app though, those are fine. A simple spreadsheet will do. Create 2 columns, assets on one side, liabilities on the other. Update it at the end of every month. Watch the number. Celebrate progress, no matter how small. When you make that number your scoreboard, you start playing the financial game with purpose. You start seeing how today's decisions shape tomorrow's freedom. Because in the end, what you measure, you improve. What you ignore, you repeat. It's never been easier to access information. We have libraries in our pockets, mentors on our screens, courses at our fingertips. But there's a strange paradox happening today. People are drowning in knowledge but starving for results. Why? Because consuming information without applying it is like eating without digesting. It may fill your mind, but it won't nourish your life. Real growth happens not when you know something, but when you do something with what you know. That's how you turn learning into earning. I remember a young man once told me, "I've read over 100 books this year." I said, "That's impressive. Tell me, how has your bank account changed?" He looked down and said, "Well, it hasn't really." And that's the trap. People often equate volume with progress. But wisdom isn't measured by how many books you've read. It's measured by how many lessons you've lived. You don't need 100 new ideas. You need one idea applied with consistency. So here's the strategy I've used for years. Every time I read something, watch something, or attend a seminar, I ask myself one question. What's the one thing I can do today with this insight? Just one. Not a dozen. Not 10 pages of notes. One clear action. And I write it down. Thanan, this is key, I schedule it. Because if it's not on the calendar, it's just a wish. If I hear a concept about saving more, I might decide, today I'll automate a 10% transfer to savings. If I learn something about communicating better, I'll schedule a tough conversation I've been avoiding. That simple habit turned learning into momentum. You see, knowledge compounds, but only when it's put to work. When you take action on one insight a day, you don't just learn, you evolve. Your finances improve, your confidence increases, your habits transform, and soon people will ask you, "What course are you taking?" And you'll smile and say, "The course of action." That's how you break the cycle of mental clutter, by turning information into implementation. You build a bridge between what you learn and what you earn. Because in the end, it's not the book that changes your life, it's what you do because of the book. It's not the podcast, it's the step you take after the episode ends. It's not the strategy, it's the courage to apply it before the day is done. Knowledge multiplies through use. So read, learn, listen, but above all, do. Big dreams are beautiful. They're the spark that ignites the fire of ambition. They give direction, purpose, and a reason to rise early and stay up late. But let me tell you something I've learned over the years. A big vision without daily discipline is just a hallucination. It's like holding a bag of seeds and thinking you've already grown a forest. Vision is essential, but without water, without the steady drip of action, nothing ever grows. You see, I've met so many people with incredible dreams. Dreams of wealth, of freedom, of changing their family tree. But when I ask what they did today to move toward that dream, they look at me puzzled, as if the dream itself should be enough. But it's not. A dream gives birth to a goal, and the goal demands a routine. You want to build wealth? That starts with one small disciplined action a day. Save $5. Read 5 pages of a financial book. Make one sales call. Review your budget. Something. Anything. Because the seed won't sprout unless it's watered consistently. When I was broke, I didn't just imagine my way out of poverty. I imagined the life I wanted, sure. But then I started doing the little things. I saved even when I had very little. I skipped pleasure so I could invest in books. I showed up early, stayed late, took notes when others just showed up for the paycheck. I acted like the wealthy man I intended to become. That's discipline. That's how you build a bridge between your vision and your reality. Let me give you something practical. If your dream is financial independence, then create a routine every day. Commit to one wealth-building behavior. Doesn't have to be dramatic. Just make it daily. Big change isn't built in big moments. It's built in small, repeated acts of discipline. 10 minutes a day reading. 5 minutes a day reviewing your spending. One conversation a week about money. Those are the bricks. The mansion you dream of is just the result of laying enough of them. Dreams feel magical, and they are, but magic without motion fades fast. The wealthy are not necessarily more talented or lucky. They are more consistent. They water the dream every single day, even when it doesn't look like it's growing, especially then. And over time, with patience and faith, that quiet discipline yields a harvest most people only wish for. So dream big, yes, but then show up daily. That's where the miracle begins.